What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, on today's episode, we're going to talk the Big Ten, our 2026 Big Ten preview. We're going to talk the top storylines in the conference, like Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon being the favorites for the Big Ten. We're going to go through win totals for every team in the conference, and then we'll end with who's going to Indianapolis, who's going to win the Big Ten in 2026, who's the dark horse, who outside of the top three, if it's not going to be one of those, who could challenge. Maybe you're picking one. We haven't shared each other's picks. Maybe you're picking a dark horse to win this year. Maybe I am too. We'll see. And Daniel, before we dive in, some exciting stuff at the Extra Point. Our guy, Ben, great member of the team here at the Extra Point, has built an incredible app we're calling the Extra Picks. We want you to pick games with us this fall. There is a link in the episode description. If you're watching on YouTube, click that link below. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, in the episode description, it says pick games with us. Go ahead and click that link. There's an invite code there for you to join our group completely free. We're going to pick the 10 best games every week, rank them with confidence points, and you can pick games with us all season. So this is just winners and losers, but the confidence points does make it interesting. Ben's been doing this with big group of his college friends for several years now, and he decided to turn it into a fun app that we can use on the Extra Point. Really fun game. We're really looking forward to doing this all season. So get involved, share it with your friends, click the link and join now. And we don't know what yet because we're just now launching this, but we will have a prize. Maybe we'll do a first, second, and third prize for the winner. Hey, if you have something you want, go ahead and comment. Let us know. Tweet us at Jacob Carnes, at Daniel Hammock, at Deep South Daniel.
Shout out.
There on Twitter. Yeah, just let us know if there's a prize you want. I mean, I know we've got some cool hats. We could definitely, that's an easy one. Maybe a guest on the podcast. We'll figure it out. But go ahead and join us. Daniel, I'm excited to dive in. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Big Ten week. We're finally at one of the big boy conferences. We're done with the Monster Energy Big 12 and the Your Name Here ACC conference.
Coming soon.
Yeah. So
it could be the Extra Point ACC.
Who knows, man? We get our subscribers up. We're close.
You can get those at a bargain, apparently.
Pennies on the dollar, but
that's what I've heard.
Nonetheless, we're here with the big boy conferences. We've got Big Ten this week, SEC coming up. So this is definitely, we're gonna talk about a little bit about the who's the best conference. Well, it's definitely one of these two, and I'm excited to get started.
Daniel, kick us off, man. We got to start with the Big Ten. You got to start with Indiana.
Yeah, jumping right in. I mean, Indiana, obviously, special year last year, coming from being one of the worst programs ever. Obviously, this story is going to get told over and over.
The single worst in Power 4 winning percentage.
It's crazy. And so, obviously, Curt Cignetti does what he did in his first year. Everybody wrote them off as, hey, it was an easy schedule. Hey, it was this. Hey, it was that. They got bounced in the first round. And, we thought, hey, they're going to go back to mediocrity or, something. But Curt Cignetti is a great coach. He'll take Penn State job. And, boy, what a difference a year makes. Last year was insane. This year, man, there's a lot to like about their squad that they've got coming back. The thing I like the most is their schedule, because if I'm an Indiana fan and I want to win games, I don't play a team with a pulse until October 10th at Nebraska. So they're very much walking into Ohio State 6-0, and that game's at home. So they get Ohio State at home this year. Obviously, we're going to talk about things they lost. Fernando Mendoza, most notably, obviously, first overall pick, huge, NFL talent. They bring in Josh Hoover from TCU. I'm curious what he'll end up being in this offense. Like, is he going to be enough of Cignetti? This is going to be the year we kind of see a difference, because the first 2 years under Cignetti was a lot of his players from JMU. A lot of those guys have left, and they're really having to renew this. I don't think there's any doubt Cignetti's a great coach, but let's kind of see what the Indiana experiment shows. I think Hoover has been high with his interceptions past couple years, so that's different from Fernando. Also, he takes a lot more sacks than Mendoza. Mendoza, he was great about last year. Obviously, he made some plays with his legs. He had almost 300 yards rushing, but his big thing was avoiding sacks. And I think that that's going to be something Hoover's got to get better at. He's been known to take a big sack, and it's cost his team getting out of field goal range, or just in general setting them up, further away from the stick. So I think that's a big key this year. Their anchor of the team is going to be that offensive line. They got, 3 returning starters, but most notably Carter Smith, who's best in the conference at left tackle. So I think they're going to be very strong. We'll see. They do, after those first 6 weeks, like I mentioned, we'll get into our over-under win totals, but they go Ohio State, then at Michigan, then they've got USC, and then at Washington late in the year. So, 4 pretty tough games. So that's where we're going to really see the rubber hit the road with this Indiana team. They return a lot of defense, so that's good, but we'll see how things go as the season goes. I've got high hopes though for Cignetti in general. I think even if this is a cycle down year, if last year was a cycle up year, then they're still probably hitting around that 10-win mark.
Yeah, this is a team, and we'll get into win totals. 10.5 is the win total, so obviously Vegas believes. Lost a lot off that team, but 6 returning starters off a defense that was a top 5 defense last year. At this point, Daniel, I still can't wrap my mind around what Cignetti's done in Indiana. I still can't wrap my mind around 5-year average high school recruiting being 45th. Transfer 2-year average being 12th, even the number one transfer class this offseason. He's a great coach. To me, that there will be a drop off. It's what's the drop off? Will there be a drop off? Maybe there isn't, but how
do we even know ball anymore? Who knows?
Indiana's confused everybody. What they've done, I don't think is repeatable. I just think Cignetti's a dang good football coach. He has 2 incredible coordinators. It's a really good staff. To me, I do think there is a drop-off, but the drop-off to me is a drop-off from the clear best team to a clear top 10 team, maybe even a top 5 team. But that gives way to 1 or 2 losses off the schedule. They went 12-0 off last year. You mentioned those 2 sets of back-to-back games, hosting Ohio State and then going to Michigan. And that's in late October. What's Michigan like in late October? We're going to get to Michigan, but that's a question I have for that game. They beat Ohio State last year, and then USC at Washington. Where's Washington in late November? That's not an easy place to play. So schedule is much more difficult, but they beat everybody last year. They went into tough road environments and squeaked a couple games. Like Penn State was probably the most impressive one they had last year to go and do that. This is a team, Daniel. I feel bad even saying this because I think they're going to prove me wrong. I'm slightly under in the win total with Indiana, but excited to see what they do. Because, again, this is an experiment that we've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And I think give us a few years, and I think this can be properly talked about as one of the greatest college football stories, if not the greatest college football story of all time. But I don't think people are talking about it because maybe Sig's a little bit unlikable because he talks trash. But guess what? When you go 16-0, you can say whatever you want because you're going to have to go play people this year. So, yeah, I'm with you on the Hoosiers. Look, Indiana, you got to start with, obviously, after what they did. But you can't go any farther in the Big Ten without talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes. I am a noted Ohio State lover, has been very clear evidence on this pod, although I have been called a Southern fried clown by some Ohio State fans. I love Ohio State. I took a pilgrimage to Columbus 7 years ago, the first year of this podcast. They do it right at Ohio State. You could argue it's the best job in the country. It's for sure top 3 for me. I've been on Ohio State as a program since before the pod started. 2 questions I have for Ohio State this year. Can Julian Sand take the next step? And how big is the drop-off on defense? Talent-wise, look, it's Ohio State. This is the premier or one of 3 programs that do this well year in and year out. This is the 3rd best high school recruiting school over the last 5 years. Over the last 2 years, number 11 in the transfer market and number 1 projected NFL draft picks for next year's draft. So as far as NFL talent on the roster projected, the best roster in the country again is what's projected for Ohio State to have this year. Talent's off the charts. So it was that way last year when they probably, they went undefeated, lose to Indiana, lose to Miami, the playoff. It was 2 years ago when they lost 2 regular season games and then go on to win the national championship. It's Ohio State. Offense, you returned a 1,000-yard running back in Bo Jackson, who went off as a freshman. You obviously returned Julian Sayin. He's an elite pocket passer. What I'd like to see from him is, okay, 2 things. Use his legs more. He took too many sacks last year. And then I want that it factor. I haven't seen the it factor from Sayin. This is, Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Bryce Young, Stetson Bennett. Julian Sayin's way more talented than Stetson Bennett. Stetson had that it factor. You know what I mean? Of just like, it's 3rd down and 7 with the game on the line. Are you going to put the ball in your hands? What are you going to do with it? I haven't seen that from Sayin yet. I want to see it. But this is Ohio State. We're splitting hairs. We're talking about a contender at this point. Receivers. This is a fun stat from Pick Six Previews. Brett Ciancia. Great resource. Since 2019, Ohio State has featured at least 2 first-round wide receivers in its receiver room. I think that continues.
It's insane.
Jeremiah Smith, obviously, he's probably going to be a top 5 pick next year. He's a junior. Brandon Ennis, Chris Henry. Those are your top 3 receivers. Do I think there's at least 2 first-round picks at receiver between those 3? Yes, I do.
I think there's
2 all-big tight ends gone. Northwestern's tight end transfers in. 4 starters back on the offensive line. Offense will still be a top 10 offense. That is expected at Ohio State, which leads us to defense. I want to compare this Ohio State run to Georgia's run from 2019 to, honestly, through 2023. They're coming off of 3 straight years of having like a top 2 defense in the country. Mm-hmm. Last year, they averaged only 9.3 points per game given up, only 219 yards per game given up. That is the best in the college football playoff era. Because they didn't win it all, I don't think last year's defense gets talked about nearly enough of being one of the best ever, which they were. Of course, we're in NFL preseason camp season right now. So, Sonny Styles is popping at Washington's camp. Anyway, Kenyatta Jackson, only returning starter in the defensive line. This is the biggest question for Ohio State this year. 5 players gone off that defensive line. Plenty of talent. You transfer in Rousseau and James Smith from Alabama. Edric Houston's now a sophomore, former 5-star linebacker, replacing 2 first-rounders. What do you do there? Defensive back, replacing Caleb Downs. They're replacing a lot, but it's Ohio State. Plenty of talent. They transferred in 6 Power 4 defensive starters to come replace, as well as the fact that, again, this roster built on high school recruiting. Plenty of 5-stars back there that are going to make a name for themselves this year. Here's my Georgia comparison. Georgia, this is 2019 through 2023 as far as opponent-adjusted defensive rank. 2019, 2nd. 2020, 1st. 2021, 1st. 2022, 4th. 2023, 4th. And, of course, Georgia's offense got better where in 2021 they were 2nd, 2022, 3rd, where they won their 2 titles, in 2023 4th. And honestly, and again, Brett's numbers had that 2023 Georgia team as the number 1 ranked team in the country at the end of the year, the one that lost to Alabama in the SEC championship. So their drop off after that was to 11th in 2024 on defense and then to 12th. Ohio State's had 3 straight years of having a top 2 defense. Is that drop off to 4 or 5? Is that drop off to 12? Because the offense last year was only the 13th best opponent-adjusted offense, a top 15 level offense. And so if the drop-off is to 10, how much better does the offense need to be? Which brings me back to Sayin. That's my question with Ohio State. Now, I am a big believer. Ohio State is a championship-level team, obviously. This is the toughest the schedule has been in several years. They play the other teams in the top 4 of the Big Ten. They play Oregon and Indiana, plus Michigan and Texas. Now, only two of the 5 are on the road. 10.5 is the number. I lean a small drop off on defense. I think this defense drops to 4 to 6 range. I lean a small improvement on offense. I think the offense gets to 7-8 range. With this schedule, I think that's 10-2 or thereabouts. I'm under on the 10.5 win total. Or excuse me, no. Excuse me. 9.5 is the win total for Ohio State. I'm not under. I'm over.
I've got to say,
sorry, it's 9.5.
What a somber under.
I'm over
from the Buckeye himself. Okay,
I know,
over.
But what's the drop off on defense and what does Sayin do? That will determine whether Ohio State wins a national championship this year. The floor for this team is I mean, the win total is 9.5, so I guess you have to say 9. But 10 wins. Take the over for Ohio State. I'm a big believer there. The schedule a lot tougher, but this is a tough team. Those teams still have to play Ohio State. You know what I mean? Yeah, a lot on Ohio State there, but again, this is one of the teams that you have to talk about every year because the story will be written this season, and Ohio State will be a part of it, win or lose.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Obviously, my biggest question is going to be that defense, like you mentioned, what they return, like what Matt Patricia did as DC, taking over for Jim Knowles. It's almost like things just didn't skip a beat. If anything, They got better.
Yeah.
And so obviously you lose all that talent. What's it going to look like? You do add a new offensive coordinator, Osama bin Laden. I mean, Arthur Smith.
The mustache himself. Well, yeah, we're Falcons fans, so sorry about Arthur Smith.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, he's been a good coordinator everywhere he's been. Not so great of a head coach. So, and to Ryan Day's credit, he's done great with bounce backs, whether it be Chip Kelly, whether it be Matt Patricia, whether it be now Arthur Smith. So I think Ryan Day has done a really good job of being CEO of this team and having other smart people be in the room and it not be too overwhelming. So all that said about what I don't like about Arthur Smith, obviously he's got the keys to a Lambo here, and he's able to, I mean, something we don't talk about enough, this offensive line, 4 out of 5 returning starters. And I just think that that's something that a guy who takes sacks like Julian saying, like you mentioned, 16 sacks last year, I think he's got to cut that number in half. And I think that the offensive line is the big key there for him feeling comfortable. For him to complete 77% of his passes last year and be sacked as much as he did, imagine if he didn't get sacked. Like, what? The ball just never touches the ground for them. So all that to be said, there's so much offense that I feel really good about them. I'm right there with you. Also throw in USC is a tough game at USC on their schedule towards the end. But yeah, this is if anything, if there's any losses on the schedule, it's because Ohio State has one of the toughest Big Ten schedules out there.
They do. So, but again, they got to play Ohio State. Yeah, excited to watch Ohio State. Daniel.
One of the teams they have to play is the Oregon Ducks. All right. One of, if not the favorites to be the preseason national champions this year, as they were last year and the year before. I continue to pick them. They've got a lot going for them. Dante Moore spurning the NFL, saying, I'm too good for you. I'm coming back to make more money in college. I don't know if that's the case, but he ruined Dylan Raiola's plans, or maybe Dylan Raiola wanted to do this the whole time. But Raiola transfers in as the backup quarterback. He is pulling, they're calling it a Dante Moore. Dante Moore, of course, sat after having his freshman year at USC, sat behind Dylan Gabriel, and then last year had a great year, 30 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground. I think he only improves. I think this is the potential Heisman winner. This is the potential first overall pick. He's just the quintessential quarterback you could be looking for. The best part of this team is that front seven of the defense. I mean, they will get after you. They'll eat you alive. And these aren't transfers. These are guys who were here. These are guys who are back on this Dan Lanning nasty defense. They've got guys on dudes. This is the YMCA defense. They're all over the place. You're not going to gain an inch on these guys. So what we're just talking about with Ohio State, the opposite with Oregon. I think this is a team that's going to be driven by their defense. And because of that, the offense is going to have some room to grow. The running backs that are starting this year, Jordan Davidson and Deere Hill Jr., combined for 1,300 yards last year as reserve backs. So now they get pushed to the forefront as their little, everybody's got their thunder and lightning. This is their version of that. So excited to see what that backfield does. I think the offensive line is going to be very good. You bring in a couple of transfers. Evan Stewart back from injury at wide receiver, DeCorey Moore receiver. I mean, they've got some guys all over the place. They are going to have to replace Sadiq at tight end, but I think this offense is more than capable of doing that. Looking at their schedule, I mean, how fun is that second week at Oklahoma State now that they're going to have a pulse this year? They should still destroy them, but how fun is it nonetheless? They get Ohio State, or they play at Ohio State. They get Michigan at home. Washington at home at the end of the year.
I mean, Boise State week 1 isn't a cakewalk. I mean, people are picking them to be the G5 representative in the playoff. So you're at least going to get a good barometer week 1, you know?
Exactly. No, and I mean, this team, I think, is one that you're looking at. It's championship or bust. Last year, not playing in the Big Ten championship, missing out on that, losing to Indiana during the regular season. I think that they have a better path this year to get there, and we'll see. They losing to Indiana again for the second time. I mean, this is similar to how Texas Tech and BYU, that whole thing. BYU felt, but on a much larger scale because they're much better than BYU. So losing to the same team twice, you feel like if you just had that chance back. I'm really high on Oregon. I think everybody probably should be. I don't know. I got to look at their win total again, but they're definitely one that it's going to be tempting to go over, even with that schedule, just because of how complete I think they are. Their defense, that front seven is going to be nasty.
They went 11-1 last year against a very similar schedule. I think strength-wise, same as last year. 11-1. Only team they lost to was Indiana last year. I get to 11 wins exactly. I think there is a better chance they go 12-0 than 9-3. I'll say that.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
This is a top 5 quarterback, a top 5 offensive line, a top 5 defensive line, top 5 pass catchers, elite secondary. Biggest question mark for me is linebacker with Oregon. As far as on the roster, great coaching. He's got to replace 2 coordinators again, but he's done that twice now, and it's turned out fine. He's built. Lanning said that Oregon famously their logo is a 0 for 0 national championships, but Lanning has said they're close. And process-wise, they've done everything the right way. Modern football has come to them in that they've recruited very well out of high school. And yes, paying players is part of the game now, and Oregon has just a war chest because Nike is their booster. You know what I mean? So I made the joke that Oregon already has a jersey patch deal. It's Nike. Maybe they'll add a second swoosh on the jersey.
That's really funny, actually, if you think about.
That's good.
Wow. Yeah.
They've had a jersey patch for a long time.
All these players individually getting signed by Nike, but it's like this whole roster is
signed by Nike. Yeah, absolutely. And this is 3 straight years of a top 5 offense. This was a top 5 defense last year. Returns almost everybody. Daniel, Oregon, I'm not going to give my pick yet. I'm still deciding. They're one of 4 teams I'm very much considering to be my national title pick this year. I'm way over. I'm very high in Oregon. I said this last year. I'm very high in Oregon. They will be competing for a national championship this year. They are, I'm very high in Oregon. Well said. Great points. Let's stay on the West Coast, Daniel. If I told you in 2022, Oklahoma will reach the playoff before Lincoln Riley does at USC, you would have said what?
Did Lincoln Riley die? Did he get fired?
Yeah, fair. No, and again, they got really close in year 1. They went 11-1. They go into that Pac-12 championship game against Utah with a playoff trip on the line. Utah upsets them, and Ohio State sneaks into that playoff as the 4 seed. This is year 5 of Lincoln Riley at USC. Have still not eclipsed the playoff barrier, although the playoff has now expanded. And again, if you had told me when he took the job, the playoff's going to expand to 12 teams in year 3 for him, he's getting in.
Yeah, and
there'll be a team every year that gets in. I think this has been used a lot and a lot of hyperbolic stuff with several coaches. I do think this is college football playoff or bust for Lincoln Riley. They're paying him way too much money for in year 5 to not get into a 12-team playoff. I do think if they miss the college football playoff, it will be a matter of when, not if he gets fired. Even if it's next year, I think it's similar to Napier 2 years ago when they lost to who was it that knocked them off that shouldn't have done it? I can't remember now. We were like, it's a win, not if. And then he got extended for a year. And it's like, looking back on it, that was the domino that fell. It was like, there's no coming back from that. I think that will be this year if they miss the playoff. Offense. Jaden Mayava looks like an elite Lincoln Riley quarterback. So I'm like, okay, we can count on that. Running back duo, Jordan and Sanders, both injured in parts of last year. They're back. You lose Mekhi Lemon, the Militnikoff Award winner. got Tinuk Hines, Williams, Terrell Anderson from NC State. Tied it, and you have a transfer, and Mark Bowman, 5-star freshman. This is the first time they've had the number 1 recruiting class, speaking of talent, since Pete Carroll at USC as their incoming class. So there again, that's the right way to win a championship, is to build on a foundation of high school recruiting. Is it too little too late? Because they got to have results this year now. They had injuries on the offensive line last year. All 5 original starters from the start of the season in 2025 are all back. So offense-wise, look, this should be a Lincoln Riley offense. Opponent-adjusted offense last year, they were top 3 in the country, 16th best rush offense, 7th best pass offense, number 4 in yards per play, number 8 in yards per pass. Offense should be a Lincoln Riley offense. The question's never been that about Lincoln Riley. It's always been about the defense. It's obviously been his downfall. He brought Alex Grinch with him from Oklahoma. Fired him, again, probably should have started with somebody else. Deonton Lynn he brings over. I thought Lynn did some things the right way. Again, like they improved. I'm going to come back to this, but they improved. In 2023, they were 2022, they were the 66th ranked defense. Under Alex Grinch went from 66 to 50. 52 Deonton Lynn's first year, 35 last year. That's a 35% improvement as far as how much better you got a defense. You and I were talking about this earlier. Deonton Lynn's gone. You bring in Gary Patterson, who has a 20-year resume of having elite defenses. He runs a 4.25, which fits the talent roster they have on defense. It's a great base to run out of. Surprisingly, Daniel, again, I think they made changes that we need to see results from this year, or he's going to lose his job. They have a good defensive line. They signed the number 1 defensive end in this class. Defensive line should be the strength of this defense. They finally have bodies. The secondary got bit by the injury bug last year, but again, the guys who were starters to start the year are back. I think they were a top 15 level team last year, and I think injuries got them. Just like advanced stats wise, they played like a top 15 level team. They got to jump to a top 10 level team to make the playoff this year with the schedule, and to get to where Lincoln Riley, what they hired him to be at, which was year in and year out competing for a national championship. They went 9-3 last year with losses to Oregon, Notre Dame, and Illinois. Can they avoid the Illinois type loss? Can they get that off the resume? And if so, can they go 3-2 against Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, all at home, on the road against Penn State and Indiana? Can they go 3-2 of those games? And basically, it's like if you're going to lose the road games, you got to win all the home ones. Or basically, can you win one of Oregon and Ohio State? Maybe you go 1-2 against that and then win both of Washington and Penn State. I think the answer is yes. I think this is the year, Daniel. I'll go ahead and have one. I'm picking USC to go to the college football playoff this year. I think this is the year they do it. I think they get to 10-2, and if they're a 10-2 team, that's going to get you in the college football playoff with this schedule. They need to get about a 35. Again, if they make another 35% jump on defense, that was 50 to like 36 or whatever it was, 35 last year. If they make another 35% jump, that's a top 25 level defense. If the offense is a top 3 offense, how good enough does the defense need to be? I think if you tell me Lincoln Riley is going to have a top 25 defense this year, then they are a lock to make the college football playoff, even with that schedule, because the offense is going to be that good. I'm very high on them. If not, look, I won't have to say I'm wrong and like never pick them again, because he's going to lose his job if I'm wrong about this. But I'm all in. It's playoff or bust. I think USC goes to the college football playoff this year.
I mean, I think that's awesome. I think if you're looking at playoff or bust and he gets fired, someone's getting the best offensive coordinator next year.
Dude,
they're looking forward to that. But
he about to go make $4 million as an offensive coordinator.
Absolutely. But that being said, looking at this team, offensive line for me, all returning, that's big. There's a lot of sacks last year that's got to be improved upon. Jaden Maiava's game, very much predicated on moving around in the pocket, making plays down the field, as most elite quarterbacks are. Right. Last year, though, he had 10 picks. I think that's high for him. He needs to reduce that. If you see him make the necessary changes of taking some less sacks and cutting down on the turnovers, I mean, this is another one of those guys that can be like a top half of the first round
Yeah.
NFL guy. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. Like, he's a big dude. He's got everything he wants. And those games that you mentioned, Jacob, at the end of the season, you're talking about they have to go 3-2 in those games. Those are all primetime elite matchups. He's one of those guys that's dark horse Heisman, but he gets put to the front of the line if he plays big in those games.
Yep.
Those are going to be his showcase games. He's going to have that opportunity. You've already said everything needs to be said about. I mean, this is going to be a good team. They return a lot. My biggest key is Gary Patterson, so we'll see how things go as far as USC on the defensive side of the ball. If they get, I mean, we're not the type of offense we're expecting. They don't have to be a top 10 defense. If they can be a top 30 defense, they're going to be doing some special things, getting after the quarterback, things like that. So, yeah, I'm with you. USC, impressive.
I mean, October 31st, they host Ohio State. I mean, let's just paint the pit. What if it is undefeated Ohio State against one-loss USC, and they're hosting them in the Coliseum, and they get a primetime game? That's epic, man. Number one uniform matchup. That's epic. I mean, they pull that upset. It would be by far be Lincoln Riley's best win at.
That's a look ahead spot. They got Indiana the next week, so
bye week though after Ohio State.
Oh, that's true. No. You're right.
But yeah, so like they have them back to back, but a bye week in between. So
that's a great bye week right there.
That's a nice bye week on the schedule. That's for sure. Daniel, what's our next storyline for the Big Ten?
Man, look, we already talked about Ohio State earlier. The reason we're allowed to talk about them is because they finally broke through and beat Michigan last year for the first time in 4 years.
I can pick them again. Thank God.
One of our mutual friends posed a question to us comparing USC to Michigan as far as who's going to have the better year. You and I both kind of came out on the USC side of things, but I really think I was just rage baiting him. That being said, Michigan, year 2 of Bryce Underwood, year 1 of Kyle Whittingham, there's expectations here. I think the one thing about Kyle Whittingham coming in, Sharon Moore, I think, now the whole saga has passed, everybody can look back and clearly look and say, with clarity, he was in over his head. This was already rolling off the rails, and he was not fit. I'm not giving him a pass for things he did. I'm saying he was not simply fit to handle this Michigan ride. Jim Harbaugh can handle all these crazy things going on because he's a presence. Well, now you've just added another presence by bringing in Kyle Whittingham. So I'm looking forward to kind of that maturity, that able to just be the CEO, handle the mindset of a football team, let it permeate through you. That's one thing. That's something that Kyle Whittingham is very well known for at his time at Utah.
Do you buy into the narrative that he was just a stopgap coach? Because I do. That he was just like, let's get past all this crap. He's going to be a great coach for 3 to 4 years as we get past the NCAA stuff, and then we'll go.
Yeah, kind of like lame duck situation where they're just like, hey, just hang out until we clear our name kind of thing.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that way, and I think that they were just like, look, we had
perfect excuse to get him out.
We did what we could do to get a championship. Yeah. And then now that that's happened, and then he could be your scapegoat, blame it all on him. The fact that they did that and then amazingly kept a player like Bryce Underwood in the transition and everything like that,
unreal,
I think is unbelievable. Kyle Whittingham is going to be just, I think, a phenomenal. Jason Beck as offensive coordinator, I'm looking forward to. Kyle Whittingham, I think, brings a legitimacy to Michigan. Now, I say that coming off the heels of last week where he basically said the Ohio State game doesn't matter. He basically spat in the face of all of us, but we'll see if that's going to come back to haunt him. But this team, I'm not going to call it a rebuilding team or anything like that because they're not. It's Michigan. They won 9 games last year. They're replacing a bunch. There's only 6 starters on offense returning, 3 starters on defense coming back. So that's something that's concerning. But, they have the return trip of Oklahoma. Oklahoma's coming up to play them this year in the Big House. So that'll be a tough out-of-conference game. But overall, their Big Ten schedule for they've got Indiana. They've got at Oregon. They finish, obviously, with Ohio State. But if they can, take a step forward, I'm not I think that they can win, one of those 3 games, Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. But for me, I'm just not sold on them in year 1. I think that they're going to look better against the field, but maybe not those elite teams just yet, bringing in Whittingham. But he definitely will bring a level of toughness, I think, to the defense and to just the overall psyche of this team. And yeah, Bryce Underwood, for all that he was hyped up last year, he 11 touchdown passes, 9 picks, only 6 rushing touchdowns. So about 400 yards on the ground. So 2,800 yards total and 17 touchdowns. But he held the job the whole year as a freshman. So there's that. The sky's the limit for him. So we'll see. He's going to have to be very special for this team to be good. They're not the type of team that he can just kind of keep it afloat. He's going to have to make a big difference on this team.
He's the difference maker. I'm a big believer in Kyle Whittingham. You know that. I think he's a top 10 coach in the sport. The fact that they went from Sharon Moore, who was, I don't know, in the Power 4, a bottom 10 coach. Nobody was lining up to hire Sharon Moore as their head coach. Again, this is where I'm like, he got the job because he was the offensive coordinator and they needed someone to just be the head coach while they figured all this out. Because you weren't going to go get, you're not bringing, who is the best hire this time? You're not that he would, but you're not luring Lane Kiffin away from Ole Miss with the allegations hanging over your head.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anyway, the fact that you get a top 10 level coach in Kyle Whittingham, I'm a big believer in Kyle Whittingham. They're my, if I'm wrong about a Big Ten team making the playoff, I think they're the team that gets in because they had a better season than I thought. And I think long-term, what a hire from Michigan, even if he's there 4 or 5 years, I think he raises the floor of your program.
Absolutely.
They're winning at least 9 games this year is where I'm at with Michigan. Daniel, let's go to my other dark horse. Let's go back out west. The Washington Huskies. This was a team. Look, is this Ohio State light? Not really. But what I mean by that, I have the same questions that I have
Ohio
about
State,
Washington.
Zero sugar?
Zero sugar. I have the same questions about Washington that I had about Ohio State. And that can Demon Williams, can he go all year and be the guy? Can he play like the guy all year? And how does the defensive line hold up against the best offensive lines they're going to play with USC, Penn State, Indiana, Oregon? How does that defensive line hold up? Washington was one of 6 teams last year that ranked in the top 20 in both offensive and defensive opponent adjusted metrics. They were a top 15 team a year ago. Again, kind of under the radar. This is a top 15 level team. They're coming off of 2 top 25 recruiting classes. They're recruiting high school well. Offense, and they're in their 9 wins, Williams was 22-2 touchdown to interception ratio. In their 4 losses, 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Rough. So he's got to be better in those off games against better opponents. Offensive line, dramatic improvement for last year from 2024. They returned 4 starters. Wide receiver room, talented, but young and unproven. So more of plenty of talent there. Let's see it on the field. Defense, Ryan Walters was a godsend, a defensive coordinator, loaded linebacker room, really tall corners last year, really tall corners this year. Both corners 6'3". So matching up at least body wise with some of your better wide receivers in the Big Ten. Alex McLaughlin, anyway, led the team in tackles at safety, which can say something about your defense, but he's back as a leading tackler. Again, defensive line, biggest question mark for me. They've got to step up. This is my Big Ten dark horse. Say that now. If there's a team outside the Big 3 that wins it, I think it's Washington that sneaks up on people and gets them. I get to 9.1 wins with their schedule. That gets you to 9-3, Daniel, which, again, a win total of 7.5. One of my best bets in the Big Ten is take Washington over 7.5. This is at least a 9-1 football team.
Yeah, man, this team is exactly what you said, dark horse. I'm interested to see the improvements. I mean, Demond Williams was special last year, kind of came out of nowhere. 600 yards on the ground. I was joking because we were like, I think my buzzword so far has been this guy takes a lot of sacks. And then so far, Demond Williams has taken the most sacks of any of the quarterbacks we've talked about. He took 21 in 2024 and then 31 last year. But he's a running quarterback, y'all. So his numbers are going to look more because a 2-yard loss on a rush is going to look like a sack if it's RPO, if there's a pass option. So for what it's worth, I'll give him a little bit of credit there. But he had a very good year last year, kind of burst onto the scene. I'm looking forward to seeing this next year. Jacob, have we talked about year 3 Jedd Fisch?
We've not.
Okay, year 3 Jedd Fisch. Arizona, you and I were on this from the beginning when he jumped to Arizona. It was like, it's kind of a surprise. He was a staffer with New England Patriots, I believe.
Patriots, yep.
1-11 his first year. Year 2, he went 5-7. And I remember you saying he's going to make a pop this next year. And sure enough, he won 10 games the following year. So I think that was something, first year at Washington, 6-7. The Gen Z is cheering. You got second year Washington, 9-4. Okay, that was already a good improvement. I'm wondering if he can take an even an elevated step here to put them in 10-11 win territory regular season, just with what they have on the schedule. It will be tough the way they end the year, Indiana and Oregon, but this is a team that, like you said, they could get hot and they could be a team that people don't want to play. Style of play comes a big factor. I'm excited that the Apple Cup is going to be on opening weekend. So open the year with the Apple Cup. That's fun. This is going to be a fun team to watch. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Fun team to watch. Daniel, who's the best conference in college football? I think got to talk about it as we're talking about the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, this is definitely where the conversation starts. This conference has won the last 3 national championships. Of course, Ohio State, Michigan, or should I put it in the correct order? Michigan, Ohio State, and now Indiana. It just depends on how we're going to define things, but a lot of teams, a lot of people like to point out just recent national championships. I think, as a SEC fan growing up and still, I don't think that the SEC got credit for that necessarily. It was just kind of like, meh, yeah, I guess so. And then kind of dismissed. And now all of a sudden that's the main talking point since the SEC hasn't done it. It's a fair way to evaluate, I definitely would say. Other things you can look at are, player development, NFL draft picks, that kind of thing. You could look at how many teams get into the playoff, how many teams you deem eligible that could win a national championship, the depth of the conference. Like if you did like what they like to do in college basketball, which is like the ACC Big Ten Challenge, where everybody plays somebody from the other conference. How many teams from the SEC would beat the Big Ten and vice versa? So depending upon how you look at it, the only two conferences that are in this would be the Big Ten and the SEC. But yeah, man, I think the SEC is deeper. I think the Big Ten has maybe better, top teams. That's how it's been at least the past few years. We'll see, man. I think it's nice to have heavyweight battles like Ohio State, Texas in week 2 this year. To kind of get some of those juices flowing. Same with Michigan and Oklahoma, similar teams where they're just outside of that top spotlight, get to play each other. What say you?
Again, it all depends on how you define best. Pate put his definition out either, in one of his recent shows, and he said, like, how good are your best teams? And honestly, the SEC for a while, you could go both ways with this. People would say the SEC was defined by how good they were because of how many national championships they won. And Andrew Percival on Twitter, he's a big numbers guy. He and I were going back and forth, and he said, actually, even in the years they didn't win the national championship, the SEC was still the best conference. And he pointed to 2013, 2016, 2018. And he defines best the same way I do, which is I would just go by like average power rating. How good is the average team in your conference? And the SEC's been the best in that metric for 18 years in a row. Something there, and it will be the same this year. It's just interesting now because I do think tier 1 in the Big Ten is better than tier 1 in the SEC, but tiers 2, 3, and 4 in the SEC are better than tiers 2, 3, and 4 in the Big Ten, and that comes to the average being better for the SEC than it is the Big Ten. It is the Power 2 and everybody else. The Big Ten and SEC are very close in this metric, and honestly, this could be a year, Daniel, where I mean, to me, I could absolutely change my mind this year if USC, Michigan, Washington is better than Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama. Then the Big Ten's a better football conference. Right now, I don't feel that way. And preseason numbers would say otherwise as well. But as of right now, I would say the SEC is the best conference, but the Big Ten has better tier 1 teams. And therefore, because the gap is bigger between the tier 1 teams and the tier 2, 3, and 4 teams in the Big Ten, they have a much easier path to the playoff. And they're set up for success to win national championships. We'll get to my pick, but I think the Big Ten right now is set up to win national championships. And if that's your definition of who's best, then I do think the Big Ten's the best right now. But that's where I'm at with the whole conversation. Daniel, let's look. This is the extra point. You and I are uniform guys. Of course, we're recording this on Wednesday, August 5th, where Georgia just announced all white uniforms. We're going to have to talk about that another time. Disappointed, to say the least. Uniform updates in the Big Ten. Let's just run through a few. Illinois has a new jersey patch. God, I hate jersey patches. Theirs will at least match the jersey color. Indiana has the new Adidas template. They didn't last year. So they get the updated Adidas template. One small change they made that I dislike, Daniel. They had the Indiana across the chest. They added a logo on the collar, their Trident logo, the IU. Right. I think you need one or the other. Either put the word mark or the logo. Don't do both. Texas, smartly, after several years of having both, they took the Longhorn logo off and left the Texas a lot cleaner. Pick one. Don't like they added both. It's going to sound like a very critical segment. I put up or down arrows on good or bad changes. Several teams made bad changes. Michigan State jersey patch, and they did opposite colors. On the green jersey, it's white. On the white jersey, it's green. Dislike. Nebraska, woof. Nebraska made a horrific uniform change. I don't know. Again, what fans of Nebraska were like, God, we got to change our uniforms. That's what's wrong with our program is our uniforms. They removed the iconic Nebraska, Cornhuskers patch. I hate the new number font and cornrows texture. It's ridiculous. The shoulder stripes look like NC State or Virginia Tech circa 2018 to 2021. Not needed. They look like the Louisiana Raisin Cajuns or some G6 school. They don't look like Nebraska. And I think that, again, I judge a good uniform by, do you look like that school? Is it iconic? Nebraska had iconic uniforms. It might have been simple, but you knew who it was when they took the field. This was not needed. I don't know who asked for this. It's horrific. Shame on you and your family. Northwestern rolled out some new purple Gothic uniforms. They're fine. It reminds me of the Ravens Purple Rain. If you like them, you probably love them. If you don't like that, which I don't, it's whatever. Ohio State. Downside is jersey patch. All right, let's focus on the positive. Return of the Buckeye stripe. Daniel, I think this is Ohio State's best look ever because of how good this looks on a modern template. My only dislike is the fact that they've included a Sub-Zero. Again, I don't understand the obsession with all-white uniforms. Every team, NFL and college, is trying to do an all-white uniform. I don't understand it. The icy white and the storm trim, it's ridiculous. I say calling their Sub-Zero ridiculous. And Scarlet Rush, an all-red unitard that they wore against Tennessee in the home playoff game 2 years ago. But and here's the thing, I can even live with their blackout uniform, Daniel, because it's good and the helmet's cool. And me and black not being a part of your colors, Ohio State can get away with it. This will be in consideration for best uniforms in college football. Ohio State is excellent, excellent, excellent. A standard bearer for uniforms. I'll have to see what combos Oregon has this year. I've talked. I'm not a big fan of the current template. The longer it sits with me, the more I dislike it. Penn State moved to Adidas, didn't change the uniforms. Good. They're perfect. Don't touch them. Wisconsin. The new Lambeau uniforms are awful. They also got a jersey patch. It's blue on a red jersey, but it is Culver's. As far as a match, as far as what company matches with the school well, Culver's in Wisconsin, excellent. Make Absolutely. It white. What are we doing with the blue patch on your jersey? Anyway, I'm going to have to get over jersey patches because they're here to stay, but biggest uniform news is Ohio State brought back the Buckeye stripe, and they will be in the running for best uniforms in college football. They're excellent. Could not be more excited about that. Let's talk some win totals. We're going to run through in alphabetical order, starting with the Fighting Illini of Illinois, 7.5 their win total. Where are you at, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, losing your starting quarterback's tough. This is a rebuilding year for them. I think, with the schedule, they've got Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan State, uh, at Michigan State. They got Duke from out of conference. So it's really, I think the 7.5 is because of the schedule not being this crazy, but I just don't know how much you can trust them. Bielema has been a good, solid coach. So I think
In the Big Ten.
in the Big Ten, I trust him to a certain extent, but do I trust him to win 8 games in a rebuild year? I don't think so. So I'm going to go slightly under. I like them at 7 wins, 7-5 for me. So under on Illinois.
That's where I'm at. I get to 7.4 wins when I do it, slightly under, but more likely 7 than 8. Indiana 10.5. I've said I'm on the under slightly, and if I'm wrong about a pick, it's probably this one.
Yeah, I'm under on Indiana. I think it's just schedule related, and like they had an incredible run last year. They could still go 10-2 and still be very good this year without, I don't think, being disrespected necessarily. So replacing a lot to see what they can do. So I'll go under.
Under. Iowa 7.5 wins.
I mean, that's a great line. I think
Great line.
That's right where I have them. I'm gonna lean under, just I think on vibes alone, and just go 7-5 for Iowa. But they're right there. I think the Cyhawk game got a lot easier for them this year.
Yes.
And so some of those games make me kind of wishy-washy, like should I go slightly over? But I'm going to stay at 7-5 with Iowa.
Dude, you don't just look at that helmet and just see 8-4. I mean, 8-4, man. Yeah, this is an 8-4 team. Yeah, give me the over for Iowa. I get the 8.2 wins. I'm over on the Hawkeyes. Maryland 4.5. This one, yeah, 4. Give me your take first. 4.5 on Maryland.
I'm a little bit over on them. I think
Same.
that's tough. They're returning a lot of players. Now they weren't amazing last year. They're 4-8 last year, but that being said, I mean this non-conference isn't terrible. At Hampton, at UConn, they do have Virginia Tech, which will be tough. But yeah, looking at this schedule, I think they could potentially go bowling. But I mean, 5-6 wins isn't crazy. Give me the over on Maryland.
I'm over as well, and honestly, numbers wise, it'd be one of my best bets. But I'm looking at my number and saying I'm like 1.2 wins over the number. I get to 5.6 in bowl eligibility, but I don't trust that. I'm still over, but I'm not putting that out as a best bet. Michigan, 8.5.
That's a great line because there's 4 losable games on this schedule.
Yep.
I think.
Can you go 500?
Can
or below? Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, they have to either beat Ohio State or Oregon on the road. They have to get Indiana at the Big House or Oklahoma. I just don't know if they can do it. I am slightly under. I'm at 8-4 with Michigan. I think they're going to be very good. I could be wrong. You mentioned you could be wrong about them maybe making the playoff, going on a run. I like Whittingham. I just don't know if I believe that. Like I said, Bryce Underwood for this team can't just be along for the ride.
Yep.
He has to make a difference on this team for them to win 10 games. So maybe I'm wrong.
Agree.
But yeah, fun game, fun team, but we'll see.
Yeah, they live and die by how well he plays. I'm on the over. I get the 8.6 wins. I'm slightly over. I'm on the over for Michigan. Michigan State, their win total is 4.5. Year one of Pat
Fitzgerald. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a rebuild. I don't think anybody has expectations for him. Year one, I think they sneak up and probably beat somebody they're not supposed to. So there's that. But I mean, Notre Dame's on this schedule. Like, they've got a tough schedule.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm going under. But I like the hire of Pat Fitzgerald. I think it was a surprise hire. I think it ultimately will lead to them being good. And I would not be surprised if they sneak in and, like, we're wrong about them going bowling or something this year. But just because I do see them upsetting somebody this year, but it's going to be a rough rebuild to start with.
You're on the under?
I'm on the under.
I'm on the over. I get to 4.7 wins. I think like 5 and 7 is not off the table for me. I'm on the over there. Minnesota 6.5.
I mean, this team, first of all, second week of the year, playing Mississippi State. this is going to have all the eyes of the SEC and the Big Ten of like who's the better conference. It's a CBS game, 3:30. They had a pretty good draw schedule wise. I like them on the over this year.
They did.
So they return a decent amount of their team. Go ahead.
No. You finish.
I have them over. I have them 7-5 this year.
I'm on the under, Daniel. I'm under by like almost a full win. I get to like 5.6 on the wins. I thought you were going to say they had a good schedule draw last year. This year they draw 6 of the top 9. That's where I'm like, 6 of the top 9, and you should probably lose all of those. Like you won't be a favorite in any of those 6 games. So do I think you pull an upset against Washington, Michigan, Iowa, Indiana, Penn State? And then you still play Mississippi State at home, which is not going to be a cakewalk by any means. I'm on the under, Daniel. I'm thinking about making this a best bet. I'm on the under with Minnesota. Nebraska, man, year two or year 3 Matt Rule jump didn't happen. Their win total now 6.5 with Dylan Raiola out the door.
Yeah, I mean, vibes of changing the uniforms, vibes of Raiola leaving. I'm going under.
I get to 6.4. I was right on the number, and then I saw the uniforms and under, my friend. Under on Nebraska for sure after seeing that. Northwestern, 5.5 the win total, opening up a new stadium in October. How do you feel about the Wildcats?
I'm on the under for Northwestern. I mean, shoot, they could lose to South Dakota State out of the gate. Who knows? That's a very good FCS team.
That's not crazy.
The Jackrabbits, they play at Oregon, at Ohio State. Honestly, a lot of these teams circle Northwestern as a team they want to beat. A team that they're probably on similar ground with Minnesota that we just talked about. They're playing at Minnesota at the end of the year. So I think that I'm going to go under on Northwestern.
I think they lose one of their out-of-conference games. They play Colorado and San Diego State in the first 2 games. I think they lose one of those.
South Dakota State,
Yes, South Dakota State. Yeah, tough sledding, tough schedule. I get to 5.4 wins. I think 5-7. It's a good number again, but I'm on the under with you. Ohio State, Daniel, I've already said I'm on the over 9.5. This team seems like this is like Georgia. This is like dropping a 9.5 on Georgia. I know they play Texas out of conference, but 10 wins seems like the floor for Ohio State.
If they lose that game, they're going to win one of the other big games.
Right.
It's in their DNA. It's a slam dunk over for me. I think 10-11 wins is where you're looking at with Ohio State.
Yes.
So, I mean, Texas could be their only loss if they do lose to Texas. But, that's going to be a fun game the second week of the season. But, yeah, Michigan, Oregon, USC, Indiana. Look, it's a tough schedule, but this is Ohio State.
It's Ohio State. Schedules aren't teams. Love that. Oregon, 10.5 the win total. Full game better than Ohio State, but again, no Texas on the schedule. How do you feel about the Ducks?
Yeah, I'm over. I mean, this is one of the premier teams of the country. This has got 11 wins written all over it.
Yeah, I get to 11 wins exactly with the schedule. Penn State, 8.5 is the win total.
Yeah, I mean, that's very generous. It's mostly schedule driven. This is a lot of transfers that have followed Coach Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Rocco Beck last year was my best quarterback in the Big 12. He's not the best quarterback in the Big 10. Spoiler. But I think they'll have a successful season. I don't see them winning 9 games, though, so I'm going to go under.
Okay, under. What's funny, Daniel, is when I do my prep, I will typically, read about a team, read about what's happening in spring camp, transfers, talent, all that kind of stuff, and I'll kind of go through the schedule. And again, I put a numerical value on the win, and before I ever look at the win total, because I try not to be influenced by the win total. I'm just like, what am I thinking before I go look at this? And dude, I got to 9 wins. And I got to 9.1, and I'm like, okay, am I going to be way, because sometimes it's like I'm way off, and it's like, what? Oh, their win total is 4.5, and I'm at 9. Something's off here.
Right.
That, or I should start betting.
Recalibrate.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I go and I'm like, oh, the win total is 8.5, and I'm like, oh, the schedule. Like Penn State did not lose a ton. They brought in a lot of transfers. Like, again, they played like a top 25 team down the stretch, even after James Franklin was fired. Like, they finally leveled out from the huge pendulum swing of just like the bottom falling out of the program. I'm over Daniel. I think with this schedule, Matt Campbell can come bring some stability. But if it's under, like I think 8.5 is the perfect line. Like I think 8-4 would still be a good year. But I am on the over. I'm over on Penn State. Give me
You have them losing to USC, Michigan, and Washington.
Or do they beat one of those teams? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, those are the 3 games that have them as a. Those are the 3 games I have ranked lowest as far as like chance of winning. And again, roster wise, like it's probably a point, like a 35 to 40% as far as implied odds based on the line for at Michigan and at Washington. So if those games are at Penn State, are they a slight favorite? I think there's a chance they're a slight favorite if they play Washington at home or Michigan at home. Like I think those are coin flip games. In USC, that'll be a coin flip game on the road. So the fact that you avoid Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana, like that's the reason the win total is at 8.5, you know. And you kind of get a slow ramp up to the season. Marshall, road game at Temple, but it's in your state. And man, that's one of those like recruiting games you schedule, right? To go like recruit Philadelphia. And Buffalo, you get Wisconsin at home, at Northwestern, then you get to host USC, then go to Michigan. So they have time to gel as a team. Like build that foundation to go make the run. I'm on the over. I'm on the over for Penn State. And you know me and Matt Campbell, I'm a big fan. They lucked their way into a hire after attempting to blow it the whole coaching cycle. Anyway, good hire. Purdue, 3.5 is the win total.
Yeah, I mean, there's Notre Dame's on this schedule, and then they are one of the bottom feeders. I like to mention non-conference because it's like when you're one of the bottom feeders, you need to be able to eat on your non-conference schedule.
Why are you scheduling Notre Dame?
And Purdue is not doing that, so under 3.5. Barry Odom's the coach, though. Let everybody know.
Yeah, they need to take a page out of their in-state programs book in Indiana and just schedule FCS teams in the non-con. I'm on the under.
I mean, you saw Indiana decide to take Kennesaw State off the schedule because they were like, we don't want to take any chances with this schedule.
Did they really?
Well, I'm just kidding. They only had them for 2 years, so
they play them again in 2 years. That's why I was wondering.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no.
I was like, oh, did they cancel that one?
Not for this year.
Well, they did cancel the USC game or the Notre Dame game. So that's why I was like, oh, are they taking Kennesaw State off too?
Yeah.
Rutgers, 4.5.
We're at that point, man. I'm under. We'll see. Greg Schiano, does he have the magic? I don't know.
I'm over. They can win 5 games. I don't think it's a bowl team. I think they can win 5 games. UCLA, 6.5.
This one's fun. I have them over on UCLA.
Me too.
I like this team. I think that they really showed a lot of resolve last year after coach gets fired. And I think they've got something to show for it. So we'll see. I think they're 7-8 win team potentially.
Yeah, I am. I'm high on what they could do. Like again, if everyone's trying to find like the next Indiana, this fits the build as far as like the G5 coach who brought a lot of his roster. I'm on the over. I'm not as high. I'm not saying it's a 10-win team, but I'm on the over. They could surprise some people. USC, I've already professed my, their win total is 8.5. I'm getting into 10-2. I'm way on the over for USC. This is the year. I'm bought in. I'm a believer. Where are you at?
Yeah, I like this over, even if they don't do the full send like you're suggesting. I think 9-3 is very attainable for this roster. And I think that they're going to have a good ramp up. Obviously, having the week 0 game, you get 2 bye weeks in your season. I think it's just a good setup for them overall. So I'm on them with the over.
Washington, 7.5. Again, another team I've already said I'm firmly on the over for this one.
Yeah, I'm on the over as well. I think that's I think on the low end, yeah, they could go under that, but I think really I'm seeing them as 8-4, a really solid 8-4 team that has that ability, like you've said, to kind of sneak into that top tier discussion.
I'll go ahead and say it. Best bet of the Big Ten, Washington over 7.5. Lastly, into Wisconsin, 6.5. Where are you at with Wisconsin?
They better be. Luke Fickell is out the door if they don't go over.
I think so too.
6.5 wins. Again, opening the year at Notre Dame.
Lambeau Field, terrible uniforms, but
Yeah. I mean, they're going to go on a little stretch here where they lose several games in this season. It was not pretty last year.
No.
I'm going to go under just because I'm just not. I just don't feel like this team can right the ship. I think it's soured under Luke Fickell, and that's bad because I think he's a great coach. I just think that this stop did not work for him. So I don't think this is going to last. I think he's probably going to be fired at the end of this year. Um, and yeah, I think they're under that win total. I don't think they make a bowl game.
I think they can make a bowl game, but 6.5. The schedule is way easier. You could argue they had the toughest schedule in the country last year. They go 4-8. I think they can have a 2-win improvement, make a bowl game, but a 3-win improvement to get to 7 that gets me the over. I'm just not there. I'm on the under. I think they can make a bowl game. I mean, power rating wise, you're talking 60 out of 68 teams in the Power Four last year. Just not a good team, and the schedule was horrific. I mean, dude, they had Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, and Alabama last year on the schedule. Just rough. Yeah, much easier schedule this year, but you still play Notre Dame at a conference. Again, USC should be better. I think they can get to a bowl game. I'm on the over. But is that enough to keep Luke Fickell his job? I don't know. I would have thought that would have been a home run fit at Wisconsin. When he got hired there,
seemed like that. Yeah.
I think he made a big mistake, and I praised the hire too with hiring Phil Longo as his first OC. Didn't fit at Wisconsin. I thought it was great, and just didn't fit at all. And I wonder how much he was behind the 8 ball after that of getting a fix. And the schedule, he just get punched in the face last year. Rough. For his sake, hope he makes it. I would love to go see that. I'd love for them to contend the Big Ten. It's fun when Wisconsin's good in the Big Ten, you know? Again, that's going to make a conference better. If Wisconsin's like an Iowa level 8-4 team, the Big Ten becomes very deep. Same with Nebraska.
Absolutely. If they just go to, they perennially were every year.
Yep.
So
that's it. Daniel, who goes to Indianapolis at the end of the year in the Big Ten?
All right. I want everybody to be shocked. So it is Oregon and Ohio State is who I have. So yeah, I have Indiana just missing out, which of course I'm a hater because I picked against them all last year and they proved me wrong. So maybe they will again, but I've got Oregon versus Ohio State.
I do as well. I have Oregon and Ohio State. And who do you have winning the Big Ten?
I have Oregon.
I also have Oregon. I have the 12-1 Ducks and getting over the 10-3 Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship. High on Oregon. Daniel, if it's not Ohio State, Oregon, or Indiana, those are by far the best odds-on favorites to win the conference. But all three of those at 3-1 odds or less. Who's the dark horse? Who wins if it's not one of those three?
It's tough for me. If I was picking, I feel like I'm going to cheat by saying this, but if I was just picking a team that I would I think has the best chance to do it, would be USC, because I think that they've got the ingredients already there on offense, and then defensively, I really like what Gary Patterson is going to bring to them stylistically. But if I was just going to buy a lottery ticket, it would be on Michigan and on Bryce Underwood. But I'm basically just counting that he's going to just turn into Cam Newton. And I think that 15 players since Cam Newton have been said to be the next Cam Newton, and none of them have been so far. So I don't know if that's even going to be possible, but we'll see. But yeah, if I gun to my head, it would probably be USC.
I have the similar answer. I think if it's outside of those three, my answer has to be USC based on what I've said. But then I'm like, odds wise, yes, USC is still a dark horse. It's hard for me to say USC is a dark horse because of just the USC you and I grew up with. If it's not USC, that's my answer. The lottery ticket's a good example of what am I buying with good value of it's Washington. And for a similar reason, if Damon Williams is that guy, like all of a sudden the 9-3 turns into 10-2, and it are a bunch of teams at 10-2, and you have the tiebreakers to get into Indianapolis. I don't think they're going 12-0 or 11-1, but yeah, if Damon Williams is that guy, that raises their ceiling for sure, and I'd like to be a part of that, holding that ticket for sure. Daniel, we did it. Big Ten in the books. Southeastern Conference next. That will wrap up our conference previews. And like we said at the beginning, if you want to pick games with us in the fall, pick winners, you listen to this podcast and you're like, Jacob and Daniel are idiots. I'm way smarter than them. Join us for the extra picks and prove it. Daniel, the last time we did this, we finished first and second. So I welcome any challengers to pick games against us. Straight up picks, the extra picks, link in the description of the episode. There's a link for you to click for our new app, and then there is a code to join the Extra Point group for the extra picks. Be sure to do that. We want to play with as many people as possible. There will be prizes for winners, free to join. Click that link below. Be sure to tune in next time for our SEC preview. You can follow Daniel on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That will do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob.